Howdy, guys. Welcome back to the Five Guys podcast. Today, we are recapping Monday's episode of Chow, how he could possibly become financially free in 8 short years. He wasn't running $1 million business. He wasn't a fat cat on Wall Street in his private jet. No, he even made less than 100,000, we believe. So we are going to be talking a little bit about how he did it, the recap of it, the different principles, all the fun stuff. If you don't want to go watch Monday's episode, Friday's episode is right here, right now, just for you. Just for you, viewer. Anyway, with that being said, let's get right into it. Chris, happy Friday. Also, viewer, happy Friday. If you're watching this on Friday, hope you're having a great week. Get back into the podcast. What are we going? Happy Friday, Chris. Happy freaking Friday.
Happy Friday. Great intro, bro. So today we're going to be getting into what we talked about on Monday, just a quick recap. And then after that, we'll go into viewer mailbag and then win of the week. So I say we start with the principles that Chow laid out, then we'll go into Chow's story a little bit. So number one of Chow's principles was the first thing we want to do is acknowledge that your goal should be freedom. And again, that's Chow's goal that he's kind of put on everyone else. But from speaking with a bunch of people as a financial advisor and a financial coach and consultant, typically when I ask people, like, what do you want in a financial independence? Most people do say freedom. Freedom is normally the biggie for people.
100%. Do whatever you want, when you want, not have to ask permission. That is quite a nice dream of, I would say most. If that's not your goal, interesting. But to each their own. That's all right.
Yeah, I think it's just important that we have to be intentional about pursuing financial freedom because it's laden with a bunch of hard choices to be made. And if we don't remember what the end goal is, or if we don't even know what our goal is, then when it comes up to, well, do I save money or do I go out and buy a new candle? Well, the thought process is like, well, I want the new candle right now, so I'm going to buy that. But if you have a goal and saying, well, does this get me closer to freedom? Does this candle get me closer to freedom? And run it through that filter every single time. Maybe you're going to come up with a different decision. And I'm not saying that every single time freedom wins out. Like, obviously, if it's like, should I rent this house or should I live under a bridge because I want to get to freedom? Like, yeah, you should probably rent the house rather than like live under a bridge. But everyone gets to make that choice. You get to make it with intention. I think that's the big thing that people need to understand is there are no secrets, only intention. And like coming into it, there's too often that people will say like, oh, well, Chris, you're able to achieve financial independence because you didn't have kids and you moved to Arizona where it's cheaper than San Diego and all this stuff. And it's like, yes, you're correct on all of those things. And I chose every single one of those things.
Yep.
And that doesn't mean that that those other people don't have disadvantages that I didn't have. But there are other people who had other advantages than I had. And it all just comes down to like, you stand there, you say like, these are my advantages, these are my disadvantages, and this is what I'm going to do about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Not living in a fairy tale, not wishing and hoping. No, you take the cards you're dealt, play them the best you can, and see if you can get to your goal. Right? I love that. I love that. Not playing the victim, being the hero of your own story. That's what everybody needs to be. More like you in that aspect.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. And I think what Chow was kind of get at when he talked about acknowledging freedom should be the goal is because most people, their goals historically has just been stability. Am I just stable? Can I show up to my work? Do I know that tomorrow the same work is going to be there for the next 30, 40 years? And eventually like I'll be able to retire and move to Arizona and play golf all day or whatever your goal was. But nowadays, we have to update our thoughts and our beliefs as the times and the world updates as well. And now we're seeing that those old stable jobs, quote unquote, that people believe they could work in for 30, 40 years, those are gone. Why are you going to give yourself, your stability, your best years and your loyalty to a company that isn't loyal to you?
Yeah.
Back when your grandparents would tell you like stay at a job for 30 years, it made sense for them in their world. Where if they worked at a company for 30, 40 years, they would get an amazing pension that would pay them guaranteed for the rest of their life. But nowadays, ever since when was that? 1980s that the 401k Act came out. And now all companies are like, oh, we don't have to be a part of this. This isn't our burden anymore. Now we can just say it's the employee's fault if they don't get to retirement. If they don't have enough for retirement, it's on you. Now it makes really no sense to stay at a company because I can think of so many times that I've stayed at companies longer than I should have because of trying to be loyal to the company, trying to be loyal mainly to my team But at the end of the day, the company was not loyal to me. They would have gotten rid of me in a second had it been a business decision. And too many of us, we go through life thinking, oh no, I'm really special. Like my company wouldn't do that to me because I'm really special. But at the end of the day, you're probably not. Now, I used to tell my employees this, and this probably wasn't the nicest thing, but like you might think you're the most important person in this room, but they will replace you in a day.
Yeah. If you die today, a job posting will be there tomorrow. I mean, look at the lady who passed away at her desk here in Arizona. Nobody even realized she was dead for 4 days. I don't even understand how that's possible.
Just the smell alone wouldn't
What
get
did
you,
they do?
no?
Yeah, what? It doesn't make any
Maybe the
sense.
AC was like blasted in there. I don't know,
Dude,
but
I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. But yeah, your job does not care about you. It's your own personal job to move yourself along, to make more money, to do better for the community, to do better for yourself, to get to your goals, right? He talks about his goal was freedom. Chris, I know your goal. It's very close to that, correct? It's all about time freedom.
it's freedom. I just add time in front of it, but it's freedom.
Yeah, it's generally, yeah. No, 100%. And same for me. I want to be free, you know. I like my job, I do. But at the same time, if I had the choice between hanging out with Chris or going to work, it's like, let's hang out, let's go work out, let's do something. Like let's learn more, let's work more, let's do something. Um and that's what it is for me. I love my freedom. That's what I want. Maybe it's different for you. Maybe you want to work 40 years. Maybe you want to get to 50, 60, and then retire and then do the traditional route. Nothing wrong with that. That's just not what our kind of mindset is all about over here at the Fi Guys. But you're more than welcome to stay. We still teach great knowledge, great ideas. But let's continue. So principle 1 is acknowledging your true goal, your truest goal financially.
Yeah, is to be free. And I think it's sad though that like when I think about like my grandparents and like their goal was stability. Like I don't want to look back at the end of my life and be like, at least I was stable. You know, it was fine. I woke up, I went to work, I came back, it was stable. I lived a fine life. I never did anything great, and it was stable. Like, is that what you want to see at the end of your life? Or do you want to be like, I went on adventures, I got to do stuff, I got to do what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it, and I got to live a life of intention. That should be the goal, living a life of intention, of freedom, not to be stable. Stable sounds fine, but like stable is freaking boring.
Yeah. Stable sounds like a prison that you built in your own world. That's some form of stability is nice, right? Having a stable relationship, that's nice. Stable income, that's nice. Stable health, good stuff. But I want stability on my own terms, not on someone else's terms.
Yeah. And I think true growth comes from the instability. Like you don't get stronger, you don't get better if you just stay stable. Like if I went to the gym every single day, I benched 135, I squatted 135, and I deadlifted 135, and I never increased reps, never increased weight, never increased anything. Like then I can be like, yep, I'm stable. I get to show up every day stable, but I'm not growing. I'm not getting better. I'm not seeing that increase. And that's the beautiful thing of today. There are a lot of bad things. Yes, today we don't have pensions, we don't have all this stuff. Inflation's up the wazoo. Housing market has gone crazy. So is college, and wages have stayed exactly the same. But one thing that we have that beats out everyone else is we have the ability to utilize the online resources that are available to all of us to build our wealth, to learn knowledge that is free and accessible to every single person. You can go on YouTube and learn how to do basically anything.
Yeah, literally anything. That's what's so interesting about it is you could say it's never been a more uphill climb. But our parents, they didn't have GPS to get up there. They didn't have shoes to get up there. They didn't have all the tools we have, right? Have you been on ChatGPT recently? It's freakish, right? It's weird. It's awesome. Have you been on the internet lately? Have you researched anything? Have you gone on Audible, audiobooks and whatnot? I mean, at the end of your life, if you didn't learn anything, if you didn't become the person you wanted to become, unfortunately, it was your own fault because there's actually nobody stopping you. And if there is someone stopping you, that's kind of like you're being held hostage, right? I don't think you're being held hostage. Granted, if you are currently being held hostage, call the police. But everybody is so dramatic nowadays. You're not being held hostage. Nobody is stopping you. Nobody is forcing you down. You can rise from any problem, any trouble, whether the trouble was put on you and you were born into a foster home and you have no parents and you feel like you're starting from nothing, or you're born into a great home and you got $200,000 worth of debt, you can rise again because nothing can crush the human spirit if you just believe and you work hard and you can do it. You can do it. So have a goal, structure it in a way that is accomplishable for you. Have a goal that's true to yourself, not a goal like, oh, I want to make $10,000 a month. Where did that number come from? I want to drive a Ferrari. Where did that come from? I want to be financially free. Where did that come from? Question everything, question where it came from, and question if it is your truest goal, because there's nothing worse. And Chris has talked about this before, which I thought is so interesting because he works with more retiree clients. Make sure your goal is true to yourself because you don't want to work your entire life towards a goal that you didn't want in the first place. And you get to that goal and you're like, this kind of sucks. This is not fun, you know? So make sure you're really being introspective and trying to figure out what you want with your life. I know we're the five guys. We talk a lot about finance, but a lot of it we talk about psychology, right? And I'm tempted. At the end of the last podcast, I made up a word. Do you remember what mentalist or something like that?
Yeah.
I like misspoke real quick, but I was like, don't say it again, Dom. Don't say it again. You're gonna say it again. Don't say it again. But absolutely, this guy's blueprint is just beautiful. He got financially free in 8 years. How? You know, it's unbelievable. He had a goal. He increased his income. He reduced his expenses. He stopped trading time for money. Bing, bang, boom. Bob's your uncle. Simple enough. And like Chris talked about last episode, if you have a plan and you can't easily explain it to a 6-year-old, probably not a good plan.
It's so difficult, right? Because nowadays, so many people like you have a million reasons to complain, and every single one of those complaints is 100% valid. And there's nothing I can do to take away every single complaint. And it comes down to like the one thing I want to teach people, and the reason we talk so much about philosophy here is because it's your mindset. It comes down to your mindset. Yes, you can have every single disadvantage in the world, and you can still choose to go ahead and try to make something of it, to work hard, to get yourself there. And I don't know how to teach mindset. That's the hardest thing. So my hope is just by continue to share this information, can share people that have done it. You know, I've done it, and I didn't come from money. I didn't come from any of that stuff. You know, there's so many people. I was talking to one of the guys today at jiu-jitsu, and I was like, oh yeah, I was telling him like I'm going to go home, and you know, we were kind of talking about kids and stuff because he was asking me, do you have kids? And I was like, no, but you know, in the next few years we'll have kids, and my plan is to be a stay-at-home dad. And he's all like, well, how are you going to do that? And I was like, well, you know, I've worked really hard to have a monetary ability to step back and not have to work anymore when I have kids. He's like, oh, that must be nice for you. I'm going to be working until like I'm 90. It's like, well, yeah, it is really nice, but also it took like a lot of work. And if you have the mindset of why even try? I'm going to work till I'm 90 or I'm dead anyways. Then of course it makes sense that you're not going to try to save money. Of course it makes sense. The reason that we're here at the Fi Guys is we're trying to show people that you can achieve this. Other people who are, I'm sure, way dumber than you, like myself included, way dumber than you are, audience member, have done it. You can do it too, but you need to first shift your mindset. You know, I think there are really special people in the world. There are Elon Musk. There are people that are maybe just way smarter than us. But there are also people that have achieved financial independence, done amazing things, who are as dumb as rocks. Just because they didn't have the ability to say, no, I'm not going to do it. Because whether you think you can or you can't, you're right.
100%. 100%. And it's unfortunate when you see someone with a limiting belief like that. Like, I'm just going to work till I'm 90. It's like, dude, staying home while my kids are born, you know, when they're younger, I didn't win the lottery doing that. It wasn't out of a hat. Like, it was a life I designed and I worked for. And there was a lot of suffering up front so I could have peace on the back end. you're just going. It's just purely suffering for you, my guy. With a little bit of peace, like pick your course.
Yeah, pick your poison, right? And
Pick
I
your
think so
poison.
many people. I recently read another book, and I think I sent it to you to read.
Mhm.
But in the book, he talked a lot about, in life, people choose what they want in life, like what would bring them joy. But in truth, the thing you shouldn't choose is what's going to bring me the most joy. The thing you should choose is, in what way do I want to suffer? Do I want to suffer working 9 to 5 every single day, going home, grabbing food on the way home, working for the next 60 years in a 9 to 5 job? Or do I want to suffer to make money, spend less money than I'm making, see all my friends going on cool trips, seeing my friends buying new cars, seeing my friends going out to dinner, drinking every night, doing a bunch of fun things while I sit at home, you know, making my own food, driving the same car that I drove since high school,
Yeah,
living inside the smaller apartment than what I can afford, so that in 10, 15, 20, who knows how many years, that I can do things today because I did things that they were unwilling to do yesterday. So do today what others won't, so that tomorrow you can do what others can't.
yeah, and let that sink in. Really let that sink in. That's powerful stuff. Yeah, all about designing the life you want. Most people don't.
And going at it with intention. And there's
Yeah,
no, like, I wish I could tell you the secret. I wish I could.
yeah. Wish
Like,
there
there
was
is
one.
no secret.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what sucks. Is like we've been searching, guys. We've like that. There is none. There's no like the secret is show up every day, try your best, and always be improving. That's it. That's the only secret. That really is.
There are
I
little
genuinely
sprinkles on top, but there's nothing more than those little sprinkles, right? So
yeah.
let's move on to principle number 2.
Good.
Principle number 2 by Chow was, we need to actively work to increase our income. We can't just passively wait and hope that the universe will come and, or our boss will magically be like, you know what? You, employee, you deserve an extra however much money. I know you've been showing up 20 minutes late every day, and I know that you haven't really tried for the last year, but you deserve more money. Or maybe you show up every day and you're a fine employee, maybe even a good employee, maybe even the best employee. But if you're not advocating for yourself, you're just hoping that by God's grace, someone's going to shine a light on you and be like, this guy or gal deserves $10,000 more every month. That's just not the way the world works, unfortunately. Capitalism is still capitalism. And the job of a company is to maximize profits. And their shareholders, they have a fiduciary obligation to their shareholders to make them as much money as possible. How does it make them more money paying you more? Paying you more? It doesn't. If they can get you at the lowest cost, that's their goal. As someone who has hired people and fired people, that is unfortunately the end goal. Now that I own my own company, I try not to have to fire anybody. But at the end of the day, it still comes down to it's a monetary thing. And like, while I would love to keep everyone on, that's why I'm so crazy when it comes to hiring. But firing someone is awful. But like, at the end of the day, like, this is a business made for money to continue to do that. The podcast here is the thing that's not the business. This is the nonprofit. This is the thing that, like, Dom and I can't really fire ourselves. I mean, I guess we could fire ourselves or fire each other, but then the show goes in a different direction.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, like this is our legacy play to help as many people as possible. I mean, it's you can go meeting to meeting to meeting 1% at a time, or we can blast this out to the world and help people in different places all over. Right? I've gotten messages, so many great messages from people all around the world talking about how much they appreciate my content and right the content that Chris and I put out, and that's beautiful. Right? People that we're never going to actually meet, but people who through the internet we've met them, which is cool, which is beautiful. So, like you said, principle number 2: increasing your active income.
Yep. And that could be by negotiation, going in there, working hard. That it could also be by going out there and finding another job, finding a side hustle, as it were, or working 2 remote jobs. But at some point, we do need to increase our income. And if you do decide to choose a side hustle, I would recommend something that complements your existing skills, something ideally that's low effort, and something that has the potential to eventually become passive income, because there is no truly passive income. You always have to put in the work at some point. But you have to start doing that today, because yeah, you can cut your lifestyle down really, really low, but at some point we're just sucking the marrow from the bones, where the ability for us to continue to make money, that's exponential. That never stops. That's infinite. You could make infinite amount of money. You can only cut so low before your lifestyle is severely impacted to the point that you don't want to continue to exist. You don't want to get there.
And that's not the life we want for you. We don't
No.
want a life where, well, I've cut off Netflix. I don't have cable anymore. The only thing left is groceries and the internet. Like, I don't want that life for you. I want a life of abundance for you, you know? I want you to make enough money to where it's like, you know, I went out and treated my mother. I got her a nice purse she's always wanted. You know, I went out and I got my dad a nice new tool set, right? No occasion, but because I'm doing well and they raised me good. They deserve it. You know, that's what I want. You know, I want you to be able to be like, hey, let's go to this store. It's on me. Now, granted, that might not be for everybody, right? That's just what it is for me. Like, that's what I want for me. Like, I want to be able to take care of the people that I love and spoil them in ways that they wouldn't even spoil themselves, right? Because I know how hard it is for them to acquire money. It's very expensive in time and costs, right? So if you're going to go down this financial rabbit hole, obviously do it for yourself, right? But having a strong why makes the how easy. So easy. Don't you want to spoil your parents? Don't you want to spoil your wife or husband? Best friend, maybe? Don't you want to spoil that little doggo in your life? The little Chow, you know? Or the cat. I won't judge you if you have a cat. But ours are probably a little bit better. I do like the good old land shark Chris has. But yeah, that's my take on it. Honestly, having that strong why and not being afraid to ask for those raises, to jump to the next job so that you get the increase, right? Because this is what I want, because you've established your true goal. And now that you've increased your income, right, you can go on to the next step, right?
Yeah, and it shouldn't just be like, okay, I have this one, now I'm going to do this one, now I'm going to do this one.
No.
These should all be done simultaneously, right?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we have to establish the goal first, ideally, but
Ideally.
maybe we don't need to establish the goal. Maybe we just start trying to make more money, which is great. That's what most people do. After we do step numbers 1 and 2, and as we're doing steps 1 and 2, we can also do principle number 3. And maybe we shouldn't call them steps. Maybe they are just true principles, because principles don't need to be done in an order. Like, you can be trying to do everything simultaneously. So principle number 3 is decrease your spending. Because remember, there's a pretty simple equation here. How much money you make minus how much money you spend equals how much money you can save, how that driver towards financial independence. And that isn't just true savings going inside of a savings account or sitting under your bed. You cannot save yourself to wealth. You can't just hide in a shoebox. What you have to do is start to invest it. And we here at the Fi Guys are going to teach you exactly how to do that. We've talked about that numerous times at this point. And if you don't know, you can always reach out to Chris at Mons on Wealth, reach out to a financial advisor, or just keep on listening. Find the information. Like, we've put it out there. I have done a decade of managing money for both professionally and for myself. And I have learned and unlearned so many lessons. And now I've come back to teach people, like, this is the truth. I've tried so many different things, and this is what actually works every single time. So principle number 3 is decrease your spending. And what that means is you have to manage your burn rate. And when I think about burning, it's when money comes in, anytime that it goes out, I'm burning it. I'm getting rid of it. And just like with a fire, sometimes it's good to burn a fire when you're cold. But sometimes, it's 120 degrees outside and I'm just burning a fire for shits and giggles. And that's what I see a lot of people doing when it comes to their money. They're bringing in money and they're just burning it in the center of the living room.
For stuff they don't even care about.
Stuff to impress other people, and other people don't care.
That's the truth. That is the truth. As Americans, we spend way too much money. You know this. You probably are this. And that's okay. At least you recognize it. But let's change it. Because it's no fun working your whole life. It's just no fun. Unless that's what you want. Unless that's your goal. But for Chris and I, it's not our goal. We want that freedom, or time freedom. And to get there, we got to save more money so that we can have more for later and let it grow.
Yeah, and it's a balance, right? It's always a balance of living for today while also setting yourself up for tomorrow. And like, that balance is impossible for anyone to say, like, this is balance right for you, Dominic. The balance for you might be different from me. And also it changes day to day, which is always difficult. Like, I've had the points of my life where I was living on $30,000 a year and saving so much and saving a good amount of money. And like, I wasn't happy because I was saving too much. And now looking back on that, I was like, oh, I deprived myself way too much. So I can also tell people that like, yes, you want to save money and you also want to live for today, because I've lived both extremes and neither one of them was a great life. And what this all comes down to is discipline, having the right discipline and having the right amount of discipline to achieve the goal that you actually want. Because yeah, right now there's like two selves, right? There's far more than just two selves, but let's just break it down to two people for right now. There's two people who exist inside of you. One is the experiencing self, and one is the narrative self. The experiencing self is you right now. That's the guy that has to get inside the cold plunge. That's the guy that gets to eat the donut. That's the guy or gal that has to go and work out. But the narrative self, that's the person that you tell yourself you are. So I can say, like, I'm someone that's fit. I'm someone that goes to the gym every day. But and like that could be my narrative self, but my experiencing self actually has to get my ass off of the couch and go to the gym. My narrative self can be like, oh, I eat healthy. But my experiencing self is the one who has to choose a salad over that donut that I really, really want. So that's that discipline, is trying to bridge that gap of the things that you want right now here in the short term versus that longer term person that you want to become, the story of who you actually are. And I do this every single day that I go down to that damn cold plunge. And I tell myself, like, my narrative self is I am the person that does hard things because I want to grow and I want to test myself because I know that hard times will be coming from my life. And when it gets there, when it does come, I want to know that I have been tested and I'm battle proven. That doesn't mean that every single day that I open up that freaking lid and I look at that cold ass water, that every single thing inside of me is saying, like, don't do it. It's not worth it. That's the experiencing self saying, like, yes, narrative self, that might sound all well and good, but me right now actually has to do this. And me right now does not want to have to do this.
Yeah.
And same thing with financial independence. Me right now doesn't want to have to save money. Me right now doesn't want to look at my bank account to figure out how bad things are. But if you're telling the story of narrative self, I'm good with money, I'm going to retire one day, I'm going to do all these things, experiencing self needs to do something at this point too.
100%. It's those tough decisions that make the easy life. What's the quote? We quote it every pod. Hard life, hard choice,
You sure you quote every pod?
easy life. What was that?
You said you sure you quote it every pod? You got it wrong immediately.
Hard choices, easy life. Easy choices, hard life. There we go. There we go. Eventually, I had to re-rack the brain real quick. But anyway, absolutely. So we've done not rules, not steps, but different principles, right? Obviously, your goal, acknowledge it, find it out, figure it out. What is it? Increase your active income, decrease your spending. Number 4.
And before we get there, in decreasing your spending, remember you have to avoid instant gratification, avoid your limiting beliefs, avoid living beyond your means, and avoid keeping up with the Joneses. Those things are the killers there. And begin to love your future self, or your narrative self, as it were, just as much as you love your experiencing self, you right now. Step number 4 is to stop trading time for money.
That's a big one.
It's a conundrum, right? Because our entire life has been taught, like, oh, the way you bring value to this world is with your time. It's by working harder than everyone else. And that's one of the weird things when it comes to investing, because so many parts of life, that is correct. The way that you bring more value is by working harder. But in investing, sometimes doing actually no work, just buying an index or something like that and staying hands off, actually works better than actively working hard. So it's one of the few places in life that doing less is actually far more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. 100%. And that's a weird concept. But it's a beautiful place to be in when money comes in and you didn't really have to work for it. Because you've already put in the work.
Yeah. And the goal is to be able to get to a point that your investments are throwing off more money than you made while you were working. Like that's a pretty cool feeling when you look at your investment account at the end of the year and be like, wow, I made more money this year doing nothing or sitting around chilling or doing things that I love than I used to make in a whole year of working 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
And yeah, that sounds all well and good. And you might sit there and say like, well, that sounds good for you because you've been doing it for 10 years. Yeah. And you can also do it in 10 years, maybe even shorter. Like it all depends on you and what you're willing to put into it. But if you keep on sitting there saying like, that's well and good for you, but I could never achieve it because I'm not going to start, then you're exactly right. but you have to start at some point. I guess you don't have to. You can keep on going through your life like everyone else does.
Yeah.
But the average American has over $8,000 in credit card debt, can't come up with a $400 emergency. And I think the worst thing we can try to be in life is average. So in investing, you have to understand how to invest properly, how to avoid the shiny thing syndrome, and to understand that in general, if you were to purchase the S&P 500, which is a broad market index of 500-ish companies, and you purchased that back in 1957, over the last 70 years or so, that has annually or on average returned 10.26%. And that doesn't mean 10.26 every single year. There could be some years that it was down 20, some years it was up 30, years that it was down 2, years that it was up 12. But on average, it has been about 10% per year. And some people say 7, some people say 8, some people say 9, 10. It depends on the specific index or the specific tracker that you're looking at. But too many people think that for me to be good in the stock market, for me to be good with money, I have to be actively doing things. I have to be working really, really hard. I have to be trying, investing in stocks, looking at all this stuff, chasing whatever my uncle told me about or whatever I read recently on Reddit. And the stock market's one of the few places that's just not how it works. It works the opposite, which is super counterintuitive.
Yeah, it's got to get out of your own way. Don't listen to what your brother, your sister, other people are talking about. Your broad index fund will be good, pretty much.
On average, that's the goal, right? And of course, past results are never indicative of future gains. But also the way I look at it is when you do a broad market index, what work are you putting in? The only work you're putting in is just not spending the money. After that, you leave off, you do whatever the heck you want. With the other methods, you're constantly working. In order to beat the market, it's extremely hard. That's the reason that 97% of fund managers cannot do it. But you think with your infinite wisdom that you are going to beat people who get paid millions of dollars to go ahead and do it, and they still can't figure it out.
Not day traders, fund managers. There's a difference, right? Every egotistical man who's in finance has always tried to be a day trader. All of them fail.
Yep, I failed.
Yeah, we all fail, right? But that's ego, right? That's wanting something. That's almost like the shiny, it's like, I can beat it. I can do it. It's like, there's a better way to make money than gambling the money you already have. It's not the best way. You've found much better ways to make money. And that is definitely not it.
Yep, I'd agree with that. So those are the 4 principles. And again, let's just recap them real quick.
Please.
Number 1 is acknowledge that the ultimate goal is to be free, not stability, not to be a million bajillionaire. It's freedom. And I think a lot of people, when it comes to that, they don't know what that means or like what is it going to take to be free? Because some people might be fine with just living on $40,000 a year. And if that's the case, like a lot of people, they're already at a time. Or maybe some people are like, hey, I'm fine with not bringing in as much money if I could do what I want to do. Like, could I maybe work part-time as a barista? And they're like, yeah, you could do that. And that's all, every single thing is okay. So the ultimate goal should be to be free, not to be a bajillionaire, not to have your own private island. It's to be free. Principle number 2, actively work to increase your income. Number 3, decrease how much money you spend. And number 4, stop trading your time for money. If you want to grow wealth, you need to invest.
Bingo. Simple as that. Well, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed that portion of the podcast. Hope you got something out of it. Hope you take action on something that we talked about today. We're not done with the podcast. Don't worry. Not a short little podcast, right? We're still got my favorite part coming up. I won't deny that. I do love the recaps on Friday. But Hero Mailbag is definitely one of my favorite parts of the week. And that's what we're going to be getting to next. Any final thoughts on that, Chris?
Now let's get into it.
Let's do it. All righty. So, viewer mailbag. This is a 5 Friday feedback viewer mailbag portion of the podcast. We do this every Friday where one of our viewers writes into us, kind of giving us a little bit of a story, the situation they're in. Chris gives his 2 cents, his takes on it. I give my little 2 cents, and we try and help them out as best as we can with the minute information that they do happen to provide us. So, with that being said, let's get right into it. The header of today's letter is Adulting Gone Wrong. My spiral into debt and moving back in with my parents. How about that?
Oof.
Oof. Yep. It's a move on the chessboard. That's all it is. It's just a move. That's it. But it's all about how you look at it. Let's see how this viewer looks at it. Dear Fi Guys, I'm writing this today with a heavy heart and a sense of shame that's been weighing on me for months now. So, you see how they're viewing.
Yep.
At 25, I find myself in a financial mess that I thought I'd never be in. It's hard to admit that I owe $10,000 and it feels like a mountain I simply can't climb. Let me take you back a bit. I graduated college just 3 years ago with a degree in marketing. Congratulations.
Cool.
Like many of my peers, I was full of hope and ambition. I landed a job at a local advertising firm, and it felt like the start of something great. Wonderful. The pay wasn't amazing, but at $21 an hour, it seemed like a decent entry-level position. That's when things started to go a little bit sideways. I was finally making my own money, and I wanted to live like an adult. I moved out of my parents' house into a small apartment with a friend. We furnished it with stuff we really couldn't afford, justifying it that we deserve this and we'll pay it off quickly. We've all been there.
Story as old as time.
Yes, indeed. I bought a new wardrobe for work, thinking I needed to look the part. Now, I do agree that looking the part is very important. I won't deny that. I think, you don't have to go out and buy Versace suits, right? But it is important to feel confident in what you wear. Let's not blow the budget up, though, right? Fixed income. Let's donate put a portion of money to handle that, right? So
yeah, if you're making $21 an hour, you should not be at like, I don't know, is Brooks Brothers like really, really fancy or like?
Yeah, maybe like a Hugo Boss or something like that.
Sure, I don't know suits, but sure, yeah.
You're good. Okay. Yeah, so I bought a new wardrobe for work thinking I needed to look the part. Okay. I went out for drinks with some coworkers and not wanting to miss out on any networking opportunities as well. Okay, so yeah, I get it. So
I've been there.
Yeah. Then came the car. Car's what gets most people, I think. It's shiny, it's expensive, and there's so many hidden expenses. Let's see their experience. My old beater from college finally gave up. I'm sorry for your loss. I convinced myself that I needed something a little bit more reliable for commuting. Fair. The dealership made it sound so easy. Just $500 a month for a brand new car. Only $500. But what I didn't factor in was the insurance. Gotta have insurance. At $397, call it $400 even a
Jesus
month.
Christ.
That's a lot of damn insurance. That's crazy. It's killing me. But I can't find anything cheaper due to my age, 25, remember that, and the value of my car. I don't know the value of the car. $500 a month? How many months are we talking? Kind of nervous about that.
Yeah,
Anyway.
let's pause before we move on. So that's $900 a month going to just this one asset. Yes. Of course, if you're making $21, I mean, how much is 21 times
it's 40
times 2,080?
2,080 is 43,000.
So he makes $43,000 a year before taxes. Yes. And he has $900 going out a month. So that's nearly $12,000.
Almost $11,000.
Almost $11,000 is going just to the car. That's more than 25% of his amount of money is going just to the car. And that's before taxes, remind you again.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, this is really important that you hear this, audience members. Too many of us, when we're trying to buy something that comes in with like a monthly payment, you'll say like, okay, $500. That's not that bad. I make, could you tell me what 21 times just 40 is?
Yeah. Let's see. 1 times 40. That's 840.
840. Okay. So I make $840 a week every 2 paychecks. Let's say I make $1,600, $1,700. So $500 from $1,700, that's not that bad. But what you have to remember is that a lot of that $1,700 is already accounted for. We have, I don't know, $800 going to rent,
yep.
$300 going to food,
Mhm.
Now, when you've taken just those two things, the $800 to rent, $300 to food, the $500 eats up the rest of the money. There's nothing for savings, nothing for taxes, nothing for living for your life, nothing for wants, nothing for going out to dinner, nothing for buying food, nothing for buying clothes. So don't just look at the sticker price. Look at what that means in your overall budget and what is already accounted for, because you have fixed costs already. And if you don't know what they are, I definitely recommend doing some digging and finding out.
Absolutely. At $397 a month, it is killing me. But I can't find anything cheaper due to my age and the value of my car. I also have a chronic condition that requires regular checkups and medication. I'm sorry to hear about that. My insurance from work isn't great, and the copays and deductibles add up fast. I started putting them on credit cards, telling myself I'd pay them off when I get my next raise.
Never do that.
No, it's not good to make decisions, financial decisions on other decisions that haven't happened. It's like getting into a relationship based on what they could become, not what they are. You know,
Mhm.
he could be good. He beats you. He's not good. He's not good, Jane. Okay. Continuing on. But the raise never came.
Of course.
The advertising industry took a hit, and our firm had to cut back pretty largely. I was lucky to keep my job. That's scary. Okay. I was lucky to keep my job, but any hope of a pay increase vanished overnight. Meanwhile, the interest on my credit card kept growing. About 6 months ago, I had to swallow my pride and move back in with my parents. It was humiliating, but I couldn't afford rent anymore. They've been supportive, but I can see the disappointment in their eyes. They worked so hard to put me through college, and here I am, unable to stand on my own two. I totally get how that can be very just taking the wind out of your sail.
Yeah, I think it's hard because most people, they believe that their life should be an upward progression, right? Like a
Mhm.
perfect 45-degree angle of everything getting better. But like life is not that. It is these concentric circles of ups and downs and ups and downs. And the peaks are always higher than the last peak. Ideally, they're higher than the last peak.
Yeah,
But sometimes you do take a knockdown, and that's where people really experience a lot of despair.
yeah,
We
yeah,
always think like, oh yeah, when I was in college, like, yeah, I had roommates, but then I got my apartment and it was a 1 bedroom. Then I moved to a 2 bedroom. Then I got to a 3 bedroom. Then I got a house. And then for like even me now to think to go back to an apartment, oh God, like I don't want that,
yeah. It'd be crazy.
because like I've grown accustomed to something new too. But that's
Yeah,
just a story like that I'm telling myself that I can't move backwards. Of course I can. I've done it before and I was fine.
yeah. You're not, first night in the apartment, you go to sleep and you're not going to wake up. You'll still be alive. But it's that lifestyle inflation that you've become accustomed to. Like, I can't do that, you know? But it's so interesting to see in different parts of your life, right? I find that so interesting.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest expenses that people don't account for is lifestyle inflation. I think it is the biggest expense.
100%. 100%. So they were lucky to keep their job, but any hope of a pay increase vanished. Meanwhile, the interest on the credit card, like we said, kept growing. About 6 months ago, they swallowed their pride and moved back in with their parents. Sorry, I'll start reading this in the first person. It was humiliating, but I couldn't afford rent anymore. They've been supportive, but I can see the disappointment in their eyes. They worked so hard. I think I read this already. I'm keeping going. They worked so hard to put me through college, and here I am, unable to stand on my feet. Now that I am living paycheck to paycheck, after my car payment, insurance, and the minimum payments on my credit card, I'm left with barely enough to cover gas and food. House poor.
Well, not house poor because he lives with his parents. Car poor.
That's even, yeah, that's not, yeah, that's the medical and school bills I also couldn't pay, and those have gone to collections, and my credit score has hit the gutter. Sorry to hear about that. I feel trapped at 25. Gotcha. I feel like I should be building my career, maybe thinking about buying a house or even starting a family. Instead, I'm back in my childhood bedroom, drowning in debt, with no idea how to fix this mess. I know I made a stupid decision, multiple stupid decisions. I was naive about money and too eager to live beyond my means. But now, I don't know how to dig myself out of this hole. It feels impossible to ever get ahead, really, let alone move out on my own again. And that's a whole nother fear in itself, moving out on your own once again.
Mhm.
I'm writing this partly to vent, partly to warn others, and partly that you guys might have some advice for us. For me, how do I turn this around? And is there a way out of this that I'm not seeing? If you choose this for your viewer mailbag, thank you. But even if you don't, it helps me just to put this all into words, even if I'm too embarrassed to attach my real name to it. Sincerely, from a 25-year-old and drowning in debt, now living at his parents, full of regret. Gotcha. So, a lot of stuff to talk about here. I don't think it's a bad thing to move back in with your parents. It's all about how you look at it. You're looking at it
Yeah.
with a negative perspective, understandably so. You're in the dark, you're in the dungeon, you're in the depths, you know? But we've talked about this before on the podcast. Other people writing in, suggesting that they move in with their parents to save money because the rent or mortgage is killing them, right? If you want to get ahead later in life, you got to make hard choices today. You can't continue living in a facade that everything's going to be okay if you just don't look at things. That's just not how it works. Okay?
It just keeps on growing and bigger, bigger, bigger. That monster just gets larger the longer you ignore it.
Yeah, it really does. It really
You know,
does.
he said something in there that he said, like, I'm 25 and I should be buying a house. I should be starting a family. I should be
Mhm.
on my own. And whenever I hear someone use the word should, what I immediately say is you're telling yourself a story. And you're telling yourself the story that your parents probably told you that they went out, and now you're comparing your story, your actual truth, the actual existence, the actual physics of your life to the story in your head of the way things should be. Whenever you should, it is a story that you're telling yourself. And oftentimes in life, all of suffering is derived from life or actual existence not matching up with the story you have in your head. You know, and I know I always go back to Buddhism and Stoicism a lot, but that is the first noble truth of Buddhism, is that all life is suffering. And suffering isn't a perfect word because dukkha is a Sanskrit word that doesn't have a perfect translation to English, but dukkha means like unsatisfactoriness of life. And the reason that we have this unsatisfactoriness is from the other four noble truths, but basically it's because we have a story in our head as to the way the world should work. And sometimes life is better than that story. And in those points, we're elated, we feel happy. But then, and oftentimes, more often than not, life is worse than the story that we came up with in our head. So whenever I said, oh, I should have got paid this much, I should have gotten this promotion, I should have been able to move across the states and it'd be cheaper, I should have been able to move out. You're telling yourself a story. And of course, when you tell yourself a story, you control all the variables. But in life, you control, and this is truth and scary, you control none of the variables. The only thing you do control is how you react to them.
100%. 100%. Control the variables that you can control. Control the controllables. Like Chris said,
So
you can
if I
control
was
how you.
this young man, what I would first do is I would create a detailed budget. It doesn't sound like you really know where your money is going, outside of just the car and the debt stuff. I know you definitely didn't when you were putting yourself into debt. So hopefully we figure that out. But like I would track every single expense and know exactly where every single dollar is going that's coming in, and track how much money is coming in too. Like I need to know that because you need to really start to prioritize your debt repayment. And I would focus first on the credit card debt. Like the stuff that has gone to collections, that's already a collections. It's already ruining the credit score. But if you have credit card debt currently, that is at probably 15 to 20% interest rates, maybe even higher if you have a more premier style credit card. Hopefully you don't. The car payment, average car payment right now, average interest rate is 7 to 9%, which is definitely lower than 15 to 20. So the car payment is important, but we might need to talk about what to do about that here in a little bit. But I would focus on first off getting rid of those credit card debts. And remember what the equation is: how much money you bring in minus how much money you spend. I know you have a marketing job making $21 an hour. For a season of your life, you may need to be overemployed. And by overemployed, I don't mean that you're working a job that's below you. I mean you're working two freaking jobs. You're working a side hustle. You're doing anything you can to bring in more money. because the more money you make minus the more money or the less money you spend is more money you can throw at your debt. And eventually, once you get the debt away, that money can now be used to build up your wealth, your driver towards financial independence. But at this point, the debt is the most important thing. If I was you too, like you can always negotiate with your creditors. So I would try to lower my interest rates or try to come up with a new debt management plan to get rid of these things. The worst thing you can do if you call your credit card company, call whoever financed the vehicle, call your insurance, like, hey, can we look for anything lower? The worst thing they can say to you is no. They're not going to be like, oh, since you asked, we're actually going to increase it 10%. That's never going to happen. Like that's not how the world works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, if it was that way, then I would say like be careful with it. But like that's not the way it works.
Yeah.
Hilarious. So that's always a thing that we can always look at, like debt consolidation. So you can look into options to combine your debts into a lower single interest loan. That would probably be more for the medical debt and the credit cards. Like I would probably not wrap the car into that, because in general, if I was you, that car's freaking gone.
Yeah.
$500 a month for the car.
100%.
That's not terrible. Like $500 a month, it's a lot. Yeah. I think the average right now is $700, but don't compare yourself to the average. But $400 a month in terms of insurance is insane. Like I get you're 25. I get that you're a guy. I understand that, but I don't know what kind of car you're driving or what you did for the down payment to qualify for like that. That's a lot of freaking money.
Yeah. I'd sell it for sure.
Like that's more than me and my wife pay for both of our cars.
Yeah.
And we have like really high insurance limits because I've been in a car crash.
Yeah. It's time to return to the beater season, right?
Yeah.
Get you something.
It's time.
That's 6, 7, 8, maybe 9 years old, right? Maybe 10 years old. That's reliable.
I don't know how far you are from work, but can you bike? Like, I don't know, man. Like,
genuinely,
you need to get rid of that thing. And if you're unwilling, like if you hear us, you're like, I'm not going to get rid of the car. The car's my thing. Then like you need to try to refinance that auto loan to a lower rate. Shop around for cheaper insurance, 100%. Like, I don't know, you have to go with the general or like whatever the lowest of the low is, but you need insurance. But like $400 is tough.
Crazy. That's another car payment.
You're basically buying 2 cars.
Yeah. Yeah, like
I get rid of the vehicle.
Think of it this way. If you walked into the dealership that day and they're like, this is your car, this is the one you picked out, this is the one you want, and they came to you and they're like, perfect, I want this. And they're like, perfect, this will be $900 a month. Would you have gotten it? I don't think so. That's all. I mean, that's more than a week's salary. So honestly, I'd sell the car and ask my mom very, very nicely if you could take me to work. Something like that.
Drop me off right down the street and I'll walk the last block if you need to.
Exactly. This is a season where you need to swallow your pride if you want to have any chance of hope in the future.
Yeah. Right? And also remember that you're only $10,000 in debt. Like there are people that are way, way worse than that. We've heard from people who are hundreds of thousands of dollars before, and I know they've gotten out of it, and you can do it too. But it's going to take hard choices. It's going to take sacrifices. And you've already made a sacrifice by moving into your parents, which was good on you. But we need to make more sacrifices because unfortunately you are car poor, which that's a new term.
Yeah.
You're car poor, not house poor, car poor. And that $900, that's more than half your income is going just to that. Half your income, every paycheck is going just to your car and your insurance, which is ridiculous.
It's too much. It's too much. Max, what do you think, Chris? Max percentage of money that should go after taxes, 20, 25, 20%? What do you think? Less?
To a car?
Yeah. You think less?
I don't know. What I typically say is for your fixed cost, you don't want to be over 50 to 60% for fixed cost.
Okay.
So maybe you want to, if he's going lower on his housing by living with his parents, then that works. But he also has like fixed costs also includes debt payments and stuff like that because you can't negotiate on those. You can't just stop making those. So right now he's 100% of his money is going to fixed costs.
Yeah.
And 50% of that 100% is going just to the car.
Yeah.
And if you only want to be at 50 to 60% for your fixed costs, the car alone wrecks it.
Yeah. Yeah, it really does.
So with when it comes to the medical debt and that it's already at collections, like I would definitely recommend, you should have done this a long time ago, but you didn't, which is fine. First off, we did a medical debt podcast, so I would go back and find that. But you can always negotiate with the hospitals or the providers to reduce your bill or come up with a payment plan. If you ignore it, yes, it becomes a big scary monster that hits collections. But if you try to work with the hospital or with the provider, they're pretty good at making payment plans. I would always recommend never put it on a credit card, because once it's on a credit card, it's off their hands. They can't do anything about it. Now you're dealing with a credit card company and they don't care as much. For you, I wouldn't recommend a financial advisor, maybe like a financial coach, or maybe even seek like financial counseling. So like maybe look for like a nonprofit that can help you with some professional advice when it comes to improving your credit score, building up an emergency fund. I would just really aim to save a little bit of money every month, but this is after I pay down the debt. Like I need the credit card stuff done before I'm saving other money, because luckily you have your parents to fall back on.
Yeah.
Like you're living with them and doing all that stuff. And bro, I'm cutting every single unnecessary expense, like subscriptions, entertainment,
Eat.
going out,
Yeah.
drinking with my friends, all that stuff. That's gone. You're living like
Cheap.
off your parents, basically.
Yeah.
You know? And that's
I
going
would
to
say
be
get down on your knees and thank them. Right. Thank them. For even being able to take you back.
yeah. Take advantage of this. Like I know that it sucks and you're telling yourself a story that things shouldn't be this way, but like how lucky are you that you have the opportunity to even move back in with your parents and be able to have the ability to aggressively pay down your debt?
Yeah.
Because most people don't have this. It's either I live in my car or I live on the streets.
Yeah.
You have the ability to move back in with your parents, and yeah, it sucks. I get it. But also, you have the ability now to learn from this mistake. And I would much rather learn this issue at 25 years old with the ability to move back with my parents than learning it at 40 or 50 when my parents are gone or can't allow me to move back in with them. So this is really a time in your life that you need to educate yourself about budgeting, saving, investing for your future. You really need to learn the A, B's, and C's of personal finance to never put yourself in this situation again, because you've said it, like you messed up. And that's cool. Like you messed up. Just repay the debt, stay on a plan. It's going to help build your credit score up as you repay the debt and you show that you can make on-time payments. You really need to stay motivated, set small but achievable goals, and celebrate every milestone of every debt that you pay off. So remember, there's 3 methods of paying off credit card debt. You can do the avalanche, the snowball, or the hybrid. I would use the avalanche, but I would probably more likely use the hybrid. And let me explain this to you just in case you're unaware. So this debt snowball method is that you're going to choose the lowest amount of debt. So it doesn't matter what the interest rates are. It's whatever the smallest amount is. That way you can see that like, hey, I paid something off and I got that win. They're going to move on to the next smallest amount of debt. Doesn't matter what the interest rates are. The other one, the debt avalanche, is you're going just based off of interest rates. You have a credit card, 3 credit cards, and one is at 5%, one's at 10%, one's at 15%. It doesn't matter what the balances are. I'm going after the 15% one until it's paid down. Then I'm going to go to the 10, then I'm going to go to the 5. The hybrid method is one of Dominic's favorites, and I really like it too. But what you do is you start off with the debt snowball. You pay off the smallest one to show yourself like, yes, I can get this one. I can do this. And then you go to the avalanche. Then you go to the highest interest rate. So pay off one, then move to the interest rate. If you don't want, you want to pay off 1, 2, 3, whatever, then move on to the highest interest rate. The highest interest rate one, the debt avalanche, is mathematically the best option. But we are not mathematical people. We're emotional. And sometimes seeing wins is really good. And remember, like getting out of this debt, bro, it's going to take time. Be patient with yourself and focus on consistent progress. We're not trying to go from zero or being $10,000 to no more debt in a day. I'm looking for 1% better every single day. You do that for 1% compounded for 72 days, you're 100% better of a person in 2.5 months.
Yeah.
Just under.
Lot to
You got
unpack.
anything else for our guy?
What would you do? This is to help you reframe your situation, but what would you do if you didn't have your parents? I mean, if you think living with your parents is bad, try living in your car and commuting to work, because that would probably be your next best option. So be grateful that things are the way they were. You can kind of start changing that mental picture you're kind of seeing. You can look at this as a super negative or opportunity to right a wrong, and rise above so that it doesn't happen again. $10,000 when you're 25 feels like the weight of the world. It's like an elephant sitting on your chest, right? People in worse situations who've gotten out of it, $10,000, objectively speaking, is a lot and not a lot at the same time. So take each day one step at a time. Remember that you can get out of this. You know, I know at a young age you feel like everybody's watching, nobody cares. Nobody cares. And your troubles aren't as serious as you might think, right? You're not going to die from this. Does it need to be paid down? Of course, 100%. We need to handle the finances like an adult. Now that you said you wanted to be an adult, this is what being an adult feels like. It's not that fun sometimes. But that's okay. Make a mistake, learn from the mistake. Keyword: learn from the damn mistake, and then move on. And don't make it again. Because if you do it again, you didn't learn. And when it happens again, it's going to be much, 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 much worse. So much worse. You cannot imagine. So much worse. It always is. That's my final thoughts on that, Chris. It really is.
No, I think that's wonderful. You know exactly what you said there. You have to learn from your mistakes. You grow, you get better, and you be thankful for what you have. Be thankful that you're in this situation now than being in the situation 20, 30 years from now. Yeah, it sucks. I get all of that. But this is an opportunity to learn and to grow. We learn more from our failures than we do anything else. Failure is the most data rich stream of information. So
True.
learn from this.
Yeah.
Learn from this and don't let it happen again, man. But you're going to get out of it. I know it. It's going to take time. It's going to take effort. You know, compare yourself. If you're thinking like $10,000, woe was me, bro. We've had people who have wrote into us who are hundreds of $1,000s in debt, have kids depending on them, have mortgages, have all this stuff. Thankfully, you are not in that situation. And I guarantee you that you have friends out there that are in the same exact situation that you are. There are people all around the world who are in the same situation. People just don't talk about it. That's the reason that we try to have this podcast, do the viewer mailbag, is to show people that, hey, there are other people out there just like you. Just everyone is afraid to talk about it because everyone thinks they're the one idiot that messed it up when they're not. No one knows what they're doing. And that's okay. We're all learning this together. And you're going to figure it out just like everyone else has.
Absolutely. With that being said, best of luck. You've got this. You're a champion. You'll survive this. And we hope to hear back from you again once you've risen out of the hole.
Yep. And you'll be better for it, man.
Absolutely. Absolutely. 10 more weeks of winter. Focus that out. Anyway. Now on to win of the week. This is where we kind of end on a little bit of a higher note, usually. Since they are win of the week, it's pretty self-explanatory. Chris and I share our wins of the week. Chris, would you like to go first?
For sure. Mine's nothing super fun, but after 2024, so anyone that opened a new LLC or has an LLC, just so you guys know, this is our PSA, you have to file a beneficial owner information report with the IRS or with the federal government. So filing it with the U.S. Department of Treasury Financial Crime Enforcement Network, basically they want to know, where do all the owners of every company live, or where are they domiciled on? They don't want people owning companies from like different countries, especially for like terrorism, that are financed through here. They want people owning LLCs. So they have to ask you, like, where are you from? You have to show a driver's license or a passport or something like that, like take a photo of it. So I didn't know I had to do this, but everyone who owns an LLC, just know that this is something you have to do before December 31st. And if you don't, the fine is like, I think it's like $200 a day until it's fixed. It's really a lot. So when I was looking into how to do this, there was a service that was like, oh yeah, we'll do it for you. It's like $150. Just pay us and we'll get it done. And I was like, all right, I guess I could do that. But then I just went ahead, did a quick Google search, figured out like, how do you do this on your own? It took me literally 5 or 10 minutes to get it done on my own. So I saved myself $150 by just doing the research to get it done. And it was really easy to do. There's like a government website. And I think honestly, it probably would take me 5 to 10 minutes to get the information ready to send to the people for them to do it for me, and $150 to like get my credit card ready. So I'm proud of myself for taking the time out of my busy day to get that done.
Heck yeah. That's awesome. Congratulations. My
Thank
win
you.
of the week is that I finally started at the new location. So my commute to work is no longer between 35 minutes and an hour, cut down to about 7 minutes. So that's pretty darn good. Also, saving money on gas. I love that. Most importantly, saving money on time. Saving money on time. Anyway, I've also returned to more of a healthy lifestyle, healthy habits, waking up at the same time, going to bed at the same time, eating a little bit cleaner. For my birthday, I got a little Watch Ultra too, and every day I've been tracking my steps and whatnot, and how long I'm standing, and all. I'm trying to close the rings every day, and ever since I got it, I've been really enjoying it. It's been really beneficial to my life. Also been eating healthier. Like I was telling Chris on Monday about the ice cream. Remember that part of the podcast? Trying to make better decisions, eating the same thing for breakfast, same thing for lunch this week, and just switching it up every week. Just trying to be healthier, trying to get to that person I want to be. Right? I'll never get there. I'll always be. Once I get to that version, well, there's another version I want to get to. You know, so always continuing that growth and that pursuit of just being my best self. And this week, I made steps towards that, so I'm very excited about that. I'm so excited. I just came from Costco. This should be in my win of the week. Just came from Costco. I don't understand how at 11 a.m. on a Thursday, there's so many people. Oh my gosh, so many retired people in this neighborhood. It's unreal. I'll tell you how bad it was, Chris. This is why I don't shop at Costco. I'm a Sam's Club guy, but they do have this protein powder, 70 servings for like $44. I'm like, oh, that's good cost to serving ratio. I went to go get a cart. There's no carts. That's how busy it
Wow.
was. Yeah, it's.
I was there on Monday. It's because all the snowbirds are back.
Yeah.
I was there on Monday and it was a madhouse. I was like, whoa, what the heck is, I've never seen the parking lot full. I had to wait for a parking spot to like go to Costco. It was awful.
Yeah. I'm telling you, Chris, you need to get a Sam's Club membership, please. I beg you. I beg you. I'll take you to Sam's Club. You want to go to Sam's Club? We'll go together. It's so much fun. It's so much more chill. Like I had this old Chinese guy in like a little cart. I think he was Japanese. In a cart. He like rammed into my cart, like a motorized cart. And he just kept going. I was like, sorry would be nice. Like, my bad. And like, nope. Just kept going. I was like, I'm telling you, they're nicer at Sam's Club. They don't run me over. So that's nice.
I'm sure they are. Can I tell you one thing that you can do now? Speaking of insurance.
Yes.
So I'm not sure if you ever did this, but with insurance, one of the biggest ways that they calculate your price is based off how many miles you drive on average a year. So now that you're driving substantially less, you can most likely call your insurance or go online and reduce the amount of miles that you'll be driving. Because now you're not going to be driving an hour every day, which would have been, I don't know, 30, 40 miles a day one way, 30, 40 miles back. Now from your house to where I know your new job is, that's what, 4 miles, 5 miles, something like that?
Nothing.
So that could dramatically cut your insurance costs just by making a phone call or even doing it through the app.
Beautiful. I'll look into that. Maybe that'll be next week's win of the week. That's a good tip. A little pro tip. I like it. With that being said, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed today's podcast. This was a doozy of a podcast. I know we went a little bit long, but nothing wrong with that. Anyway, if you are still here, we appreciate you. We would appreciate if you are not already following the channel, make sure to follow. Give it a like. If you're watching on Spotify or listening on Spotify, you can give it a 5-star review. We really appreciate that. But yeah, we have one fee for the show. We don't ask a lot. We don't ask for credit cards. We don't ask for anything crazy. But we do ask that you share the kindness that we're trying to give to you, right? Myself, Chris, we take time out of our days to record these podcasts, to edit them, put them up, thumbnails, all this work, right? Just so that we can spread the word of financial freedom, financial independence, right? All we ask of you in return is that you just share it. Share it with someone who you want to see succeed financially, someone who you want to see well off one day, right? Wouldn't send it to an enemy. They might profit too much, right? But send it to someone that you care about, that you want to see better their life. And we appreciate you guys. We appreciate you so much. With that being said, we'll see you on Monday. We've got an amazing podcast next Monday. I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say what it's about, but I'm very excited about it. With that being said, Chris, any final thoughts?
No, thank you so much for joining us here today. Thank you for joining us I know we had a longer podcast than normal for a Friday, but you never know how these things are going to go. We really do just turn on the camera and see what happens. But until next week, hope you guys have a great weekend. We love you. And if you guys want to be featured on the show, reach out to us at thefiguys.com. Or if you want to just let us know, put it in the comments, leave a review. In the review, tell us exactly what it is you're looking for us to be better for you. Because that's the reason we do this, not for ourselves, but for you, our audience members, that you guys can go on this great path that we're both on together as well.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. Hope you have a good weekend.
Peace.
Later. This video podcast is sponsored by Monzon Wealth. The content in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. We do not endorse specific products or services. Past performance does not guarantee future results. The opinions expressed are those of the host and guests, not the podcast sponsor.
It is crucial to consult with a qualified financial advisor or professional who can provide advice tailored to your specific needs before making any financial decisions, investments, or taking any other actions. If you are seeking specified help, you can reach out to Chris at monzonwealth.com.